We're in the ghost town of Bodie, which is a mid-1800s ghost town that was a mining boom town. Take a look around at the buildings right now. Nobody lives here, so population 0.
And only 5% of the buildings remain.
So there were 20 times more buildings.
Yeah.
I can imagine living here 150 years ago. No heating, or ventilation, air conditioning. We slept in the RV last night and it got down to 30 degrees.
It was
we had to invite the dog in. So that's how you know it's serious. But just take a look inside, and they've preserved these rooms. They've done a fantastic job. Switch around and look in there. Pretty spooky stuff. I believe 1864 is when it was founded. Jill's got the pamphlet. I don't know. I think it's a good guess. They also found gold here as well. This is the old main street.
It says that W.S. Bodie discovered gold here in 1859.
1859.
And he happened to die months later in a blizzard.
In a blizzard, like I said earlier.
So
No
got to really see
heating and ventilation here. It's a pretty nice time of year. So this is the church, the town church. Hella spooky vibes right here. There's a gate right here, but you're on a stick, so it's not fair for me, but here you go.
So we're at the Methodist church.
There's a Methodist church, so the Methodists got here first.
It was built in 1882.
1882. So these buildings were restored lightly within the last decade, but what they did do was they only refinished things like the roofs, because once the roof goes in a building, you can say goodbye to it pretty quick. So they used period materials, which are tin and some kind of metal shingle, essentially. There's some right here.
This is random.
I mean, this is more modern stuff, actually. Just built incognito for
Right.
Electrical meters and pumps. It's one person. I said population 0 earlier. One person technically lives in that building. It's the park ranger. I think if there wasn't a park ranger here, all the windows would be busted out.
Okay, we're at the Miller House.
That's number 5.
Yeah, number 5. Born in Canada. Worked as a teamster for the Bode Railway.
So he loaded and unloaded. He worked in logistics then.
So in 1900,
Be the
he
fancy.
lived here with his 2 children and his wife.
This looks like some kind of general store front.
So it's actually the James Stewart Kane house.
Was he like a pharmacist or something?
Let's see. So he had entered the lumber business and put barges and a steamship on Mono Lake to transport wood. And then in 1888, he became a banker and kept the Bodie Bank open until 1932.
Oh, this just looks like a staged
He
building.
became the principal property owner of the town.
Huh. Well, I guess that's what just happens when you're the only one that sticks around. I said 50 years ago, the last person.
It says that he always believed Bodie's mines would prosper again.
Yeah, well, he was wrong. They did manage to pull about $100 million worth of precious metals out of the hills. Estimated.
Quite a bit, right?
I mean, $100 million then,
Yeah,
$100
right?
million
What the heck?
now. Either way, it's plenty of money.
Yeah.
But huge difference. I think it's money nowadays.
Right.
Inflation adjusted dollars. This looks like some kind of industrial mill. Oh, look at the electricity cords up there.
47. That's way down the line. Oh, it's a sawmill.
Doesn't look like any kind of sawmill that I've seen.
So apparently you can get as cold as 30 or 40 below zero.
30 or 40 below zero, fantastic. And you are allowed to bring your dogs as long as you keep them on a leash, so. As you would expect, there's wood inside here. Now the building is falling apart.
It's hard to tell like what was staged in it and what was like actual.
It's all staged, baby.
Yeah.
It's all staged with period pieces. I'm sure some of it like was
Right.
found here and whatnot. I just
True.
some of it's a little too perfect. Hasn't been touched in forever though. You see a thick layer of dust, so I think they've done a good job preserving it when they can. But I think every other building that wasn't maintained literally just fell to pieces. So this is the old center of town. As you can see, there's nothing here right now. I'm told there's a series of hotels located just right here in front of me. To the left and then to the right. And there's also a stone storehouse that is no longer standing because it was made out of wood. Said the 1887 census said they had people who were born in Italy, Ireland, England,
Mexico,
France, Germany. There were 16 African Americans here.
and 253 Chinese residents.
And 253 Chinese residents. That's a shockingly high number.
I guess there were some native people here.
Yeah, I mean, as you'd expect.
Paiutes. They said there's about 35, according to the 1880 census.
So it looks like right in front of me is like a mining complex, which has been well preserved. Probably built structurally a lot better than these residential buildings behind me. But maintained well nonetheless. So I'm going to start recording again once I get up to the building and everyone has a better chance to look inside. So we're walking over to the cemetery, and this is a great opportunity to get a look right down the main street here. Probably noticed by now that I changed clothes.
It's definitely warming up.
It's the high desert, so super cold in the morning, really warm afternoons. So this town is considered a boom town because in just a couple years the population grew from under 100 people to between 7,000 and 10,000 people. And among those people were musicians, artists, firemen, miners, mill workers, entertainers, prostitutes. So we're now inside the Bode Cemetery, and the first thing you'll notice is that there are fences everywhere. I think in the 1930s this town was dealing with being newly abandoned. It was dealing with a lot of vandalism and theft, pointless theft. Some of that included theft of headstones. As horrible as it is, and for whatever reason it occurred, it did happen. So all these people have erected fences The 1879 pneumonia epidemic.
It's owned by a guy named last name Ward, and he sold the cemetery for $400 in 1881.
This gentleman died in 1883. It's before my grandparents were even born. It's insane to think a lot of these people came to this place thinking this is going to be a source of prosperity. And many of them end up perishing, chasing gold. The mid-1800s get-rich scheme. These are all the Millers. So in the early 2000s, they did renovate some of the graves. And I think some of the family lines that can trace themselves back here did contribute, along with some funds from the county and some of the pioneers that may have made a few dollars while they lived here. Come here to be reminded of our own mortality and to think about the people that walked this ground before us and the things they did and the hard lives they led. Barely having electricity here, finally installed in, what did they say, the 1917? I don't even know. It was one of the first long electrical installations in the country. It was powered by a hydroelectric plant constructed by a mining company. Standard Mining. Kind of spooky.
Right? I think the one with the angel over there is a child's grave.
Oh. Extra spooky. Let's go look at it and then shut this off. Wow.
While a workman was digging a drainage ditch around her house.
3 years old.
Yeah.
There's a few photos. If you Google image Bodie, there's a few photos of that grave. There's a really beautiful night exposure one. That if I was really weird, I would come out here at midnight and take a photo. 2-year-old.
Parker's the last name?
Yeah. And 3-month-old right here. Wow, is this the children's area?
Okay.
This, again, time to reflect on how lucky we are to live in the time we do live in. Antibiotics. It looks like the mid-50s is the oldest. The gentleman back here, William Hick, was 54 years old. He was one of the oldest miners in the town. He died of a punctured lung in a mining accident. This gentleman over here was a police officer. He was a constable, and he was from the state of New York. These two individuals buried right here under this concrete slab passed from smallpox at 30 years old. That's one thing we don't even have to worry about anymore, is smallpox. Be lucky for that. So one last cool thing I wanted to show you on the way back to the parking lot is these massive machines, these massive mining, so there's some mining equipment here, mine milling, and then there's a hydroelectric turbine over there. I think it's from the hydroelectric dam that powered this town. It's absolutely massive. It blows my mind that they could forge this kind of machinery
Right?
back then.